Well, welcome to Face, our informal middle-of-the-week webcast from the folks at Face the Nation. And our guest today, Rick Tyler, who runs the big Super PAC for Newt Gingrich. A lot of people don't understand, what exactly is a Super PAC?
The Super PAC is ultimately the result of the members of Congress who wanted to quell free speech. That ended up in the Supreme Court decision, Citizens United, you know it well, and the court ruled, they ruled correctly in my opinion, but too narrowly. And that is, they said that individuals and corporations can give money to influence elections, whether positive or negative, but they didn't give it to the candidates. And so here we are. We have people who are very wealthy and people in companies who are giving money to Super PACs, but candidates are excluded.
So what's the difference in giving to the Super PAC and giving to the Newt Gingrich campaign? I guess number one, you can give an unlimited amount, is that right? And you can give it anonymously?
You cannot give it anonymously, although there is some delay, but the Super PACs are completely transparent. It takes about a month, and then you know where all the contributions come from. The problem as a candidate is they're limited to $2,500 a piece. And, in today's modern media market, buying time, raising money at $2,500 a piece and buying time on airways, there's a disconnect there. And so Super PACs have sort of filled that in where you can raise lots of money very quickly to run lots of advertising, mostly television advertising. But notice that the ads don't say, I'm Newt Gingrich, I approve this message, or I'm Mitt Romney, I approve this message. And I don't know why we're afraid of freedom. We should let the candidates raise as much money as possible, let them put their names in their own ads.
But you can't say, in a Super PAC ad can't say vote for Newt Gingrich.
Sure they can.
Can they?
Yeah.
Yeah. You can do anything you would in a regular ad except...
You can do anything.
I see.
You can say vote for or against any particular candidate or any particular initiative.
But there can be no connection between
the
Super PAC and the candidate.
Right. There can be no coordination. And the reason for I don't know the reason for that. It's sort of silly, but in effect, I can't call up the campaign and say, look, we're going to spend a lot of money in Pennsylvania. So, steer clear of Pennsylvania, or spend your money doing something else. We cannot do that. Or we're saying this and we're finding this message to be highly effective, so why don't you say it too, or vice versa. That we can't do.
So if I said to you, so what's Newt Gingrich going to do next, what would you say?
Well, check his website. I have no idea.
What do you think he ought to do? What does the Super PAC think he ought to do?
Well, the Super PAC serves Newt. So I think we've all said we're going to serve Newt, and if Newt wants to stay all the way to the convention, we're going to be there. In many ways, Bob, you've followed Newt's career for 30 years, and a lot of the debate we're having about the Republican Party and even politics in general today are things that Newt Gingrich talked about years ago. That is, we're talking about now returning to balanced budgets. Newt Gingrich balanced the budget. We're talking about paying off the debt. Newt Gingrich paid off $400 billion worth of debt. Newt Gingrich talked about reforming entitlement programs, which we're talking about today. He's the only guy who actually informed an entitlement program. In a sense, he built the Republican Party to be the conservative alternative to the Democratic Party. I think he wants to stay in because he wants to give those who've helped build the party an alternative, and they do not feel that Mitt Romney is their alternative.
What is his path to the nomination?
It's got to be an open convention, and gee, we haven't had one. We sort of had an open convention back in 1976, and then we probably didn't have a full-blown one until back in the 50s. And so no one knows what it would be like. Is there a path for Newt to win? Absolutely. If Mitt Romney does not arrive in Tampa with the requisite number of delegates, I suspect that there'll be an initial vote, and if he were to fail that vote, I don't think there'd be a lot of support for him on the second or subsequent votes. And therefore, it would be a race between Newt Gingrich, Rick Santorum, and Ron Paul. And in that situation, I can imagine that a Newt Gingrich could emerge. And the reason is the people who go to Tampa are delegates. These are not casual observers. These are people involved in the party a long time. They've watched the party. They've seen Newt's career. They know who's done what. They know Mitt Romney's career. They know Rick Santorum's career. They know Newt Gingrich's career. And so I think there's a very real possibility.
Well, refresh my memory. People who are delegates, they're bound to the candidate for what? One vote? One round? Or
For sure. That is, after the first vote, we know no one is bound, for sure. But there's even a lot of opinions about the rules. The way I read it, no one is truly bound at all. Other people read it differently. I noticed on the RNC website today, None of the delegates of which Rick Santorum won in Louisiana are bound. They're all free agents, even though he won the vote.
Let me ask you this. Why do you think, I mean, you speak from a certain point of view, but why do you think it's been hard for Mitt Romney to close this deal?
I think it's been hard for Mitt Romney to close the deals because he has had such an inconsistent record compared to what he's saying today. He has tried to make the case that he's been consistent, but on just virtually every issue that the base truly cares about, from gun control to taxation to job growth to abortion, he has had by any objective standard, a very inconsistent record. I mean, all politicians, as you know, at some point have inconsistent statements and sometimes inconsistent policies. Healthcare mandates, a perfect example. He says he is now opposed to a healthcare mandate, yet Massachusetts law, which was Romney Care, instituted a healthcare mandate. He went on to say that that should serve as a model to the nation. He went on to acknowledge that the Obamacare was followed that model. Now he's saying something totally different.
What do you think? He's a phony?
I don't know if I want to say he's a phony, but I don't understand why he could be so inconsistent. If you are truly against the health care law, then disavow what Massachusetts did. There may be a distinction between federal law and state law, but they both had a federal mandate, and the base seems to be pretty clear about being against the mandate. He has claimed, to some sense, that he's been pro-life for most of his life. He's very clearly said he was on record of being pro-choice since his mother ran for the U.S. Senate back in 1970. That was 3 years before Roe v. Wade. But it's just been consistent. And the other thing is he doesn't speak the language of the conservative. He doesn't speak the language that Newt Gingrich has used for most of his political career. He doesn't understand the Tea Party, for instance, and he doesn't understand people who feel and see threats to our Constitution. He doesn't understand why gas prices, which he, as Massachusetts governor, raised gas prices by adding taxes to them, and also was on record saying we should have higher gas prices. He doesn't understand why the American people say that's wrong. We should have, lower gas prices. We should have more domestic energy production and self-sufficiency.
So you can't say, because you don't have any direct connection with Newt Gingrich, you can't say what he's going to do, but you clearly seem to feel that he is going to stay, and he's going all the way to the convention.
I've known Newt Gingrich a long time, and I do remember when he passed the contract with America, one of the things he was asked in 1994 was, what are you going to do now? He said, we're going to implement the contract. And he did that. He fulfilled the contract, his pledge to the voters, his side of the contract. If he says he's going to the convention, unless there's some extraordinary circumstance, I believe that he'll go to the convention.
Who's more conservative, Newt Gingrich or Rick Santorum?
Well, I've always avoided these questions because you get into varying degrees of conservatism. I think on some issues Rick has a good record of being conservative, but he has many inconsistencies. He has a very pro-labor voting record, which does not go over well with conservatives who believe in right to work. He twice voted to unionize FedEx. He's voted consistently for the minimum wage. And on the life issue, frankly, he's at odds with the conservative base who's pro-life. And that is because he endorsed not only Arnold Inspector over Pat Toomey for U.S. Senate, he also endorsed Arnold Inspector for president. And then he said, the reason I'm endorsing Arnold Inspector for U.S. Senate is because he's going to be there with us on the votes that we need him. Well, everybody now knows that Arnold Inspector was the decisive vote in Obamacare. So in a sense, Romney invented Obamacare, but Rick Santorum gave it to us.
All right. Rick Tyler, well, I hope we talk to you again down the trail. Thanks for being with us.
So glad to be here.
And don't forget to watch Face the Nation this Sunday on television. I'm Bob Schieffer.